Those shows are rough, man. John, remember we did Morehouse Spelman, and they were booing us so hard we couldn't even hear ourselves in the monitor.
Yes.
Boy.
We had
They
a
was
monitor in
so
front.
loud. The poet that was on stage looked like he was lip syncing. That's how loud they was booing. And all he was trying to do was give him a poem about love. Like, it was just a love.
Right.
And they were like, no, love don't live here no more.
What's up, Hallelujah Nation? Hey, we got a great combo for you today. We're talking to Jon Goode. He's a writer, he's a poet, and he's an author. He's a good friend of Hallelujah. Hey, we also want you to be a friend of Hallelujah. If you haven't done it, do it. Hit the subscribe button below. It's the red button below. Hit subscribe. Share it. Share with all your friends. But also, if you want to know when we're putting up new content, click the bell. Click the bell. It'll send you post notifications when we put up new content. Great conversation coming up. I see you on the other side.
Stage play, written TV commercials, wrote a collection of poems and short stories. I've written speeches. I'm working on a ransom note right now. I'm doing a lot, doing things. I'm doing things.
Do black people, I don't think black people get stolen for ransom.
Well, what happens is because of the current unrest, they're they're allowing white people are calling black people to write for their ransom notes. So I'm in there.
Yeah. Chris, you're gonna have to turn that down. Quit playing. You said
My bad.
Yeah. I'm hearing John twice. This is a John chorus.
That's how busy I am. I'm everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Yeah. So you've done a lot in the game, but you've been in the game for a while. So I've been in since about 95. You since about 99. We've always crossed paths.
Yeah.
And I know
we've crossed paths on a cruise ship once in a while.
We have crossed paths on a cruise ship. Yeah, and I know. Hey, just in our time, I know there's been some crazy, wild stories.
Yes.
What's one of yours?
Well, so this poetry, spoken word is a interesting performance art. It's hard to really sell people on the idea of it, like that you're going to do it for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one time, I'd garnered some success in life. I was feeling good. I'd been on some big stages. I'd done some things. I'd just recently done a cruise ship. I think maybe even you were on it. Cocktails was definitely on it. And DJ Cowboy said, hey, man, I'm having this event at this place called Red Light Cafe. Come down here and do that poem about your mama. They're going to love it. They're going to love it.
About Barbara.
I said, man, listen, here I come. So what he neglected to tell me was that it was really just a hip hop show. It's really dudes in long white tees rapping about murder, death, kill, and drugs. And it was a gong show. It was a gong show.
Yes.
So
I remember that. I know who the host was too. I did that show.
Down there.
It was Griff.
Yeah, it was Griff.
Right,
I did that
so
show.
It was Griff.
I come down there, and judging that night is Zoo Man, Tasha from Escape, and and Bruce. Those are the three judges. So I go up on stage, and now everything is like everyone who walks on stage is like hey yo man, play track 3, and then a beat comes on and everybody raps. So I'm up there, Acapulco, no music. Boom! I say 3 words and Bruce hits the gong. Bang! No beat came on. Like, bang! And then he said, hey man, listen, I don't know where you think you're going with this poetry thing, but this ain't the way, brother. I don't know who told you you're going somewhere with this, but you're not. If I was you, I would go home and kill myself right now. He might have did 5 solid minutes on how I suck. Like a hot 5 minutes on how I am not talented.
Oh.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy.
And I remember, that place. It was like, I remember the first time I went in there, I'm like, I think I need to call my wife because I might not make it out of here.
Right. And you having that thought, and DJ Cowboy, like, come do a poem. What?
Yes.
You don't hear a poem?
That's because it was $3 everything in there. I know I walked in with 20 and I had a good night. I was like, how much? Give me 4.
Oh,
yeah, brother. So actually, that's a good question, man, because there always has been like this love-hate relationship with comedy and poetry.
Yeah.
In the same room. I was told by a comedian, same thing. Coming up on stage to actually host. We were at For Sisters Only. Remember For Sisters Only?
I do.
We were For Sisters Only.
Yeah.
And they had just finished the comedy set. So Joyce Satel set up the poetry set. I'm up there to come to host. And then Wanda Smith is like, yeah, you're going to come up here and kill the crowd with all those hand snaps and all that shit, yeah. And I was like, word? That's like, I'm about to go on stage. Like, look at all this crowd. Like, we're together. Let's love one another. So I think that we've mended the relation through the years.
Listen,
being able to.
I'm at Laugh-A-Palooza. Wanda announces me to the stage, gets my name wrong. I correct my name. She comes back on stage mad at me because she got my name wrong. He want me to, all right, then. I like, what did I do? What did I do? Other than be born with this name and want it said right. What other than that? What did I do?
Man, quick story. I was on a show with Wanda Smith. I went on a show. Let me take that back. I was at a show with Wanda Smith. And it was actually Wanda Smith was opening up for Ricky Smiley.
Okay.
She went and made, between every comic, every act, she went and changed clothes. I'd never seen anybody change auntie outfits so many times. I was like, why are you changing it to these same different color animal print outfits?
It gotta be animal print if it's auntie.
Same outfit with different colors. Stop it. Stop it.
Yes.
Now you're a leopard, now you're a cheetah, now you're a zebra. The whole animal kingdom.
Oh, here.
Oh man. We're going off track, but actually we're on the right track because you just see the wealth of experience that we've had together and how we've just been able to be on all these stages and all these great stories. And C-Dog talked about he started in 96. You started around that 98. I started around that 99, 2000 era. What do you attribute your success to? Like, how have you been able to have this longevity and you're non-negotiable? Like, this is what I do, become successful in it. And then there are a lot of other people during our era that had the same ambitions and dreams, but they didn't have the same success as you. Like, what do you contribute that to?
Well, I mean, one, of course, I always tell everyone, I just feel like God's got a plan. That's off the top. But then two, for me, at some point, very early on, well, after I left my first job, many jobs have been left, but after I left the first one, I knew then that writing was what I was going to do, and that there is no plan B. Like, even if I'm doing something else, it's just to get me back to where I'm going, what I'm going to eventually do. This is it. I've even, in any dating relationship, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a writer, and I do performance poetry. And they're like, what else you do? I'm like, that's it. That's it. There's not going to be nothing else. So if you need something else, I am not the one. So I think you have to like really fully commit to your art and to your path, and really look at it like, this is it, man. Like this is what it's going to be, and I refuse to fail at it. And then within that, there's a constant striving for growth. So I'm never satisfied. I never feel like I haven't reached anything yet. I'm always looking forward. I'm trying to grow as a writer, grow in my career, look for different avenues to put my performance in. And that's been very helpful too. Because I think as a poet, sometimes we box ourselves in as to what we can do, where you can do anything as a writer. So that's why I say I've written speeches for Fortune 500 corporation CEOs. I wrote a stage play that was produced by the state of Connecticut. It was in the Yale Festival of Arts and Ideas, International Festival of Art and Ideas. I've written TV commercials. Like, if you can write, you can write. The formatting is different, so you have to teach yourself how to do that part. But you just have to open yourself up to all of the possibilities. And then with great vigor and great enthusiasm, throw yourself into the fray, into the fight, and just keep going, man.
Yeah. Hey, serious, not serious question.
Yes.
At what point did people stop asking you the most disrespectful question to an entertainer? How's your little poetry going?
So here's the thing, right? So because poetry is so obscure, right, for people, right?
Right.
Half of my family to this day refuse to believe that's what I have done or do. So what they'll say to me is, how's the little comedy going? And I'm like, I don't even do comedy. That's not, I mean, I can be funny in moments, but that's not what I'll be like, no, I do poetry. They were like, no. I saw you on Def Comedy Jam. You did not. I was not on Def Comedy Jam. I was on Def Poetry Jam. Accept it, people.
When do you feel like you did something and you looked around like, yeah, I think I'm good. Like, not I made it per se, but within the field, beyond just what I know within myself, I've done, someone else has recognized this is what I do. Like, did you have a defining moment like that?
Yeah, I think you have several moments like that along the way. Like, you'll have a moment where you're in front of 50 people and you're doing well. And then you're in front of 100 people and you're like, oh, I just killed a crowd of 100, 500, 1,000. Like, crowds grow and you find your ability to control larger rooms. And that gives you like, a feeling of like, okay, like I've got something. And then you find yourself in a black room, in a white room, in a gay room, all kinds of different kinds of people, different rooms, and your work resonates with everybody. That's a good feeling. And definitely, I tell this story on stage a lot, but it took me 4 years to get on HBO Def Poetry. And so when I finally got on that show, I remember walking in like with a chip on my shoulder, like, I am going to show these motherfathers what it is. Y'all finna see what is going to happen. And went on stage and, did the same thing. The Barber poem got like crazy reaction. And that was a good feeling. Because although that room is it's not big as far as audience, I don't know, maybe 400 people.
Right.
The moment, like, you feel it. You feel that moment. Yeah. You feel a million people are going to see this. You feel that. And so that was a big, I was like, my mama gonna see this. My mama gonna see this. And that's a big moment.
Yeah. What does it take? Like, creativity often comes out of, hard moments, rough times like these.
Yeah.
What normally, like, does it take for you to go through hard times to write, or like what drives you to write?
For me, I find that the writing for me is just, it's on the other side of the door, the front door. So on the other side of the front door is life. And in life, there's inspiration in there. There's something there. You just have to look for it. You know what I mean? So I've written several things about being on the bus. And like, if you just pay attention to what's going on like the 189 or the 89, there's stories there, like, really compelling narratives, like on being on the bus or playing chess in the park. Or for me, I'll get a call. I think I was just telling you earlier, I got a call from General Mills to work on a project with them. And so, you got to make cereal sound dope. You know what I'm saying? And there's no emotion for that. You just got to sit down and do it. So yeah, I think some of it is, looking for interesting and creative ways to pull out the art. I think definitely art is inspired by extreme emotion, anger, love, joy, pain will definitely, drive you to a pen. That's why you have so many love poems, so many breakup poems, so many revolution poems, because extreme emotion will, push you to write something. But then there's the part that has to be able to put itself into like this mold and into this position to write, even when the inspiration isn't there. Like, even when you're not feeling particularly inspired, I did a thing about, I was asked to write for this drug called Dupixent. You can see it, it's on TV, it's for eczema. I wrote for Dupixent when that first came around. And it's eczema, you know what I'm saying? It's like, there's not a lot of inspiration there, but you have to conjure it. You have to make it exist. So that's part of it.
Like, so you're saying you have an attitude, a writing attitude of Michael Jordan. You'll make up.
You have to definitely sit there, and you are going to have to look at that piece of paper. You're going to have to, take a phone call with people and, see what, like the language of the company is, what the attitude of the company is, what they're trying to say. You have to like put yourself almost in their shoes and say, this is what they want to say. They just don't know how to say it. And then you say it for them and give it to them. Like that's kind of the job when you're writing TV commercials or writing a speech for someone. This is what this company or this person wants to say. They just don't know how to say it. So let me give it to them. And usually when you give it to them, they're very thankful. They were like, yo, this is exactly what I wanted to say. I would have never thought to say it this way. I really appreciate
it.
Yeah. So John, how does that work as far as like you've named TV commercials, you've named plays, you're talking about just regular poetry things. Like, how do people find you? Like, how do you market these services that, you may kind of be expansive like that?
Yeah, so what I have found is that your best marketing tool is yourself and your excellent work. If you do good work, your name it will move and it will spread. So in the world of corporate writing, I did my first one was years ago with this company out of Chicago, and there was two creative directors. I did the thing. It went very well. Both creative directors called me back to do two separate projects. On those projects with two other creative directors, I did well on those two projects. So now I've got 6 creative directors that were calling me. I did their projects. So it was like an exponential experience of you go out there and do well. Now there's a whole nother person like, oh man, like, wow, I like what that guy has done. So right now I might be in roughly, I don't know, maybe 30 different creative directors in their phone. And when a project comes, they'll hit me up. And because there's 30 of them, you might get one every month, every couple of months. And because they're corporate gigs, corporations been known to, have a couple of dollars in their pocket. So it works.
Right.
It works out, comes together.
Yes, it does come together. Same way we feel about college shows. But so to college shows or even just diverse contexts, how do you approach or do you change up, going from, you talked about going from a white crowd to a black crowd to a gay crowd, like, do you change your approach or like, what is the approach?
So for a college crowd, this is what I understand is that audience is 18 to 22 years old. And when I come back next year, they're going to still be 18 to 22. And when I come back the year after that, they're going to be 18 to 22. Yes. That crowd is 18 to 22. Every year, you're going to get a year older, but that crowd is going to be 18 to 22. Yes. And for a lot of people, 18 to 22, there's certain things that they have not experienced. So you can't walk out on a college stage and be like, who's divorced in here? It's not, what I'm saying? It's not going to work. So you got to understand who the audience is and understand what some of their life experience or lack of life experience might be. So if you're talking to them about corporate America and the drudgery of it, they may have no reference for that. That may not resonate with them. If you're talking about, the hardship of a marriage or something like this, that might not resonate with them. So I'm very conscious of what the audience is. And I do work that I feel even if it's not easily digested, it can be digested. You know what I mean? Right, if it ain't, it ain't applesauce, it might be steak, but they can still eat it. They'll digest it. So I give them that type of work when I go to a school.
Yeah.
So what was your hardest lesson? Like, because obviously you've had to figure that approach out. You just didn't, unless you are that aware that you're immediately aware, you had audience awareness. So, okay, I'm going here. I need to do this. I'm going here. Like, were there any times that you stumbled like, ooh, wasn't this for this audience?
Well, when you first start doing colleges and man, there's some masterful people who do this. Asia Sampson, Ebony Stewart out of Texas, Blues out of Charlotte. There are people who are masterful at this. When you first start going and they say you have to do a 1-hour set, your mind starts thinking of all the poems you have that you can do in an hour. And quickly you realize no one wants to hear an hour of poetry. no one wants to hear it. No one wants to hear you do 60 straight minutes of poetry. I don't care how good your poems are. Right. No. Like even, like I tell people all the time, so this one girl got booked to do an hour and a half of poetry. And I said, what's your favorite comedy comedian? And she was like, Eddie Murphy, Delirious. I said, that's like 50 minutes. And that's the most fun you can have in 50 minutes. And after the 50 minutes is over, you're like, that's enough. And that's the most fun you can have. An hour and 30 of poetry, no. So what you have to do is learn on that stage, you have to be a poet, you got to be a preacher, you got to be a comedian, you got to be a philosopher, you got to wear a lot of hats. So for a 1 hour set, I'm only going to do 5 or 6 poems. And then the rest of that time is filled with conversation and anecdotes and stories and exchange. But that's the thing you have to learn. Once you start doing colleges, you learn how to whittle that set down. You learn how you like, this night I've gone on stage and only done 4 poems. Like the conversation goes so well. Every so often I look up and be like this, oh wait, let me do a poem. They hired me to do poems. Wait, let me do a poem. I know poem. So, and me and Blues in Asia, we've even had competitions to see who could do the fewest poems in an hour. Like who can do an hour set and only do 3 poems, 4 poems? Who can do it? And that's the trick. That's part of the trick of a college show.
Yeah, that's good. That is actually good. I don't know if I can totally get away with that. Let me go back and tell you a joke. Yeah, but
I think it's interesting when you see Dave Chappelle. You ever see Dave Chappelle hit those moments where he's not telling a joke, where he's just straight talking to him, but then he gets back to a joke. But he has these moments where he's not telling a joke; he's just talking to you. And then
you have to be very like some comedians, some entertainers are just very conversational, or can just like. He can think I even like about even him or Chris Rock. They can talk. They talk you into the next joke.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's part of an art form in itself too.
I agree. Yeah. No, it's masterful. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I did get to the point where I wasn't willing to do black colleges no more.
How you gonna discriminate against your own people?
What happened? See? Hey. What did they do to you?
Hey. I did. What's the college in Livingstone, Salisbury, North Carolina? And they tell me, so it's just I'm supposed to host a variety show. What do you call it ain't a variety show, talent show.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to host a talent show. And I get there, and this show's supposed to go on for 2 hours. I get there, they have 2 acts.
Nice.
And they say they still want to do the 2 hours. I'm like, whoa, no. So they scramble around. They get 2 more people. And you can tell, like, these people, like, they was like, hey, we want you to rap. One dude was like, I don't even rap. Like, like, why you ask me? Like, you need to ask Tony. So they go get Tony.
Oh my God.
But man, and so they tell me, no cussing. This is a Christian school or something they say, but no cussing. Don't say, no John in the crowd. Just do your material, bring up the people, and we can leave. I swear to you, they say, come to the stage. Y'all give it up for C-Dog. I grabbed the mic. F you! I was like, oh, no.
Out gate. Let's go.
Out the gate. I don't even say hello. I don't even get to say, how you doing? Like, this ain't even a response to anything I've said. Like, hey, man. Hey, this was before I was really following the Lord. After about 4 more FUs, I let them have it. They had this, and so the promoter was sitting off on the side of the stage, and he was like, keep going. I ain't got to check yet.
Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, Lord.
Keep cussing.
And so I was able to start, after I crushed this one dude, I was able to start into some jokes. But they still just trying to pep me with everything they could. And then this one guy said something just so dirty. I was just like, yeah. So I just really laid into him. And then here comes campus security towards the stage to get me, not to get him. I'm like, did you hear what he said to me? You come to get.
They're like, but you don't pay no tuition. You don't pay no tuition.
Right.
Come with us.
And I see the promoter says, come on, I got the check.
That's all that matters.
And I was like, thank you, good night.
Right. Dude, I'd have grabbed that check like it was a relay race, like I was on the last leg to give me the baton and I'm gone.
You're right.
Man, those shows are rough, man. John, remember we did Morehouse Spelman, and they were booing us so hard we couldn't even hear ourselves in the monitor.
Yes.
Boy.
We had a monitor in front.
Loud. The poet that was on stage looked like he was lip syncing. That's how loud they was booing. And all he was trying to do was give him a poem about love. Like, it was just a love.
Right.
And they were like, no, love don't live here no more.
That's what, I ain't even gonna lie. I love the Black college experience is amazing. The games and all of that is amazing. But the comedy shows as a comedian, it's like, man, I remember the first time I did Grambling. Wow. And I made it. And I was like, thank you, Jesus. Oh, it's some rough HBCUs out there, boy. I tell you.
Yeah, I've had a lot of good experiences at HBCUs. It's always interesting to me. Like, I'll get booked in Iowa, and the poem about my mom is the most user-friendly, easily digestible poem I have. If that poem doesn't land, it is going to be a long evening.
Yes.
So I'm doing that poem, and I'm talking about coming in with the street lights and all that. So when the poem is over with, I'm like, how many of y'all had the street light rule? Now I'm in Iowa, so I'm looking around like, oh, ain't no street lights out here. Y'all ain't never did nothing like that. This is like, those shows they just be looking at you just blinking like, what is he talking about?
I've done 2 of those in my life. I did one. I was in, what's the Maine? I was in Maine. For one thing, I had to drive in like 3 foot of snow.
Yes.
The college is covered in snow. And when I could tell you that these were the whitest white people I've ever seen. And I actually asked them, do y'all have any black people they go to this campus? Go to this school? They said, yes. Marcus. I was like, wow.
And Mark probably made me like, yeah.
Right.
Me.
Man, well, let's talk about that, because one more funny story we're going to talk about as far as how you get past that with your knowledge of what you learned and able to apply that, because I think you're on this show when we did Xavier, and you're talking about reading the room versus what you know you need to get an audience versus what you feel as an artist. Like, oh, as an artist, I think that this would work versus what they're telling you, like, no, this is what you need to do. We were at Xavier, Christian school, no cussing, but I see 80% women in the audience. And I'm like, I'm going to give them an erotic poem.
Oh, wow.
I got up there, I'm going to lick this and I'm going to suck that and this and this and this. And again, this is 18 to 22. So the things I'm talking about, they're probably not going to experience for another 3 years or so.
Let me clutch my pearls.
Needless to say, we almost didn't get the check that night either. So how do we get there, man? How do we get to, I have so much material, it doesn't matter where you put me, it doesn't matter who you put me in front, I'm going to be able to earn that spot and then get that return business from multiple people. So how do you keep that earning power?
Yeah, I think that early on in my poetry career, Cola Rum, he used to describe poetry as like a gun, right? So he used to say, you need a bullet for every chamber. You need a political bullet. You need a love bullet. You need an erotic bullet. You know, like, if you just look at it, like, you need something all in every chamber. And when you pull the trigger, it's going to be something, you know? So I remember hearing that very early on. And so I remember, you know, as I would write, I would keep some of this in mind. But then also when you go to the more you're on stage, the more you understand the stage. The more, you know, the stage is informative. So even when people say, how do you get over stage fright? I'm like, unfortunately, you get over it on the stage. There's no way to beat stage fright in your bedroom. You got to go on stage and do it. So the more you're on stage and in front of audiences, the more you have a solid understanding of like, okay, these are the poems I have that are universally kind of acceptable, that resonate with people. Then I have some poems that are not that way. And what I found I can do is, if I do the stuff that will ingratiate you to me, and now we built up sort of like a little bit of emotional capital, then I can go to some other places that earlier I probably couldn't have, because we haven't established a rapport. Once we have a rapport, I can take you all kinds of places and you'll go with me, because we have this kind of relationship going now. So I found very much so with performance, start off in these spaces, see where you're at with the crowd. You got pieces that you know what those pieces kind of do in a room. Sometimes I walk in the room and be like, hey, room will fall out laughing. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the most amazing night of my life. I haven't even said anything and the room is with it. Some nights you'll hit what you think is, you know, the most impactful line, and they just looking at you like, all right, it's going to be a long, rough night. But knowing that, now you know, like, okay, I have to walk you up. I still got to get to you. So I'm going to have to take some different approaches to get you where I need you to go. But you're going to go. You're going to come with me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there are some nights where they won't go, but I would say 8 times out of 10, I don't care what crowd it is, I can kind of get you there depending on where you're at. Sometimes you're already there. Sometimes it's a little bit of work. But it's the stage is the ultimate like informer of your set, of how to deal with crowds, how to deal with hecklers, all of it. You get all of it just standing there on the stage dealing with different audiences in different settings, hard crowds, easy crowds, all of it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I am always a fan of your work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because it's always, if I can book one spoken word artist, it's most times going to be Jon Goode. You know?
Man, I appreciate it. I accept. You know. I actually got a great compliment from you. I was on a cruise ship and we were doing our sets, and I had a very funny set that time. And you were like, having you is like having an extra comedian. And I was like, oh, that's what's up. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad I could make you feel good. I don't remember saying that, but I'm glad you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that though. It was Houdini was on the show.
Houdini, who they booked in place of Mint Condition, because
that's what it was.
They're 1 for 1. That's a good replacement band. We had Mint Condition, but they couldn't come, but guess who we got? Houdini. What are you talking about?
Right.
What are you talking about? We had Patti LaBelle. She couldn't make it, but we got the Fat Boys. What are you talking about? What are you
even
talking
trade.
about?
That's an even trade, you know.
What in the world? The things we've seen. God bless
the things we've seen. Yes. Man, so you know, I would love to give the people a little bit of Jon Goode. You got anything prepared for us?
Yeah, so I'm gonna do a little piece. So I have a show coming up next week on the 20th. It's gonna be me, Fahamu Peku, and Okori Johnson. We're doing a presentation, I think, called Human, H-U-E, and then the word men, reference to hue as in color, and then men as in human beings. So it's in 3 parts. It's a 3-part performance between the 3 of us. It's kind of a dialogue on stage with the cello, myself with words, and then Fahamu's going to do performance art. And there's information on my page if you want to check it out. So this is actually one of the 3 parts from that performance. It's going to take about a minute and a half to do. But if you enjoy this, please come out and check out the other 2 parts. So this is the middle. And the whole performance, is inspired. It was initially inspired by what happened with Ahmaud Arbery down in South Georgia. And then, of course, with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it's just giving extra context to the piece. And so this is the second part. It says, they never see the anointed you, just the lawyer appointed you. Only your flaws are ever pointed to, and even those are seen skewed. through a funhouse mirror's point of view. We've all become casualties of ad hoc fallacies and distorted realities because what they think they're seeing is not human, or at best just 3/5 of a human being, which leads to dark assumptions. But to quote Iodella Heath, I ain't never been 3/5 of nothing. We are fathers who, tired of living on our knees, so with your foot on our necks, we still stood to our feet. Mothers making sure their kids eat, making a way out of no way, making sure ends that have never been friends meet. Sisters working at a Mickey D's and pursuing an undergraduate degree. Brothers hustling, working a 9 to 5 and then a 10 to 3. We are this and we are everything in between. And yet they pretend to not see the we that we, women and men, still see. They pretend to only see minstrelsy. And that a culture so rich that within our hieroglyphs still exist the keys to life's mysteries. They don't see lovers of music, of art, of words. All they see are people who have always been essential to the work, essential to picking up their cotton, their tobacco, their slack. All they see are hues. So all they see are blacks and Mike Browns and Freddie Grays. They're quick to gentrify you from your home and tell you to stay in your place. And when we speak up, they use the lead to make us pipe down. Statistics say an unarmed person of color is being shot right now. So that's part 2 of this poem. Woo. It's a 3-part poem. Woo. And yeah, come through, come check us out. It'll be, there's a link on our page for Eventbrite where you can get a ticket to come to the event. That it's all on donation. So, you know, you can pay anything from, you know, no dollars to the national debt, whatever you want to pay, and just come hang out with us.
That's dope, man. That is bars. Dude, oh, that's so good. And I just love, that's the thing I love about spoken word. Spoken word and comedy are 2 of the things that can speak to the culture. I think those are the 2 arts that really speak to the culture.
Absolutely. I think that, and that the strength of comedy, of course, is that like you know, I've been playing like old Richard Pryor bits for people and some old Rare Fox bits, and they're funny bits, but they you know, they're social justice inspired bits. And I'm like, this is the strength of comedy is so much truth can be said, you know, in jest, you know, as it goes back to even the court jester, who was the only person who could tell the truth to the king because he said it, you know, with a joke. And I just feel like that's, man, one of the incredible strengths. It's an incredible strength of comedy when it's done well.
I so agree. I love like when Chris Rock, I can't remember what special it was of his, but when he talked about, you know, he's done well, you know, and he lives in a nice neighborhood. And, you know, in his neighborhood, there's Garrett Sheffield, one of the best baseball players to ever play, and Patrick Ewing, one of the best basketball players to ever play basketball, and Patti LaBelle, one of the greatest singers of all time.
Right.
And we all have nice-sized houses, but you know who has the biggest house on the block? Bob. What does Bob do? Bob is a dentist.
Right.
But I thought that was just so hilarious, but just so real in the fact that he's saying like we have to be the best of everything just to get the bottom, you know, the minimum almost of what white people have been able to have.
The dentist, yes.
Yeah.
Dude, no, it's a different calculation of like, it's an interesting calculation. I got to hang out with some wonderful wealthy white people. And I remember one of them was telling me that, you know, he was explaining to me that he was broke. He didn't have any money. And by having no money, he meant he was worth $10 million, right? Wow. He was worth $10 million, but he's comparing himself to people worth like $500 million. So to him, he's like, yeah, I don't have any money. I'm like, no, you're all right. You're okay. Like,
you're right.
Don't lose it. I think I could be wrong. I think you're gonna make it. I think you're gonna
make it. I think you'll be okay.
I'm on a limb here. I think you're all right.
So how has this season for you, like for me, this time just has been very emotional. And I think like, and I've said it too, like something's different about this go round. And it's sad that you got to say this go round, but something's different about it. How has it been for you?
Oh, very emotional, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, for me at least, like, I could turn on like a podcast and there'll be I don't know, they'll be talking about George Floyd or something, and I just find myself just weeping, just crying, just thinking about it, because, there's a shared trauma there. Like, I've been definitely pulled over and been in some really tricky positions with the police where you don't know what's going to happen or why this is quite going this way. And so you feel that, and you feel the hopelessness of his last moments when he's just asking this guy to get off his neck and calling out for his mother. And it's like the trauma is at this point in some ways like it's in our bones, So when you hear it, you can't help but to react to it with anger and sadness and confusion. We have all of that, pent up inside of us. And sometimes all of that is pent up inside of us will go through a plate glass window of a goddamn CVS. It'll happen. It's possible that could happen to you. Target, that's possible. So I feel it, like when people are out here, quote unquote, rioting, which, I'm just like, we've tried every way we can to say to you, stop killing us and treat us justly. We tried to take a knee, we tried to march, we tried to sing it to you. Like we did everything we can. Right. And so we were like, people like they shouldn't break those windows and destroy that property. They're like, well, let's try this. Shit, you ain't listen to nothing else. Let's give this a shot and see what happens. Because one way or the other, you are going to hear us. I promise you, you're going to hear it.
Wow. Have you heard, well, I don't know if you've been watching the news, where a lot of the leadership is saying there is no such thing as systemic racism, and there is no systemic abuse and prejudice in the police department. And like numerous people are going on record like, yeah, what they're trying to claim it's not. They just want to act out and, create disturbances.
Well, I think that's the tactic they have always used. The thing is that before, when they would say these type of things, there was no video. There is no evidence. You have nothing to show other than your story, which is going against his story. But now we have, documented incidents with the police, with the law. Probably, in my mind, it goes back to Rodney King. That's the first one I can remember, like really being, documented and recorded and on TV. From that point forward, we've just got incident after incident after incident after incident. And it only takes so many to say there's something systemic going on here. Like, there's something's happening here, friends. I ain't got to get kicked in the ass so many times before I say there's a goddamn pattern of ass kicking going on here that cannot be ignored, sir. It cannot be ignored. So,
well, again, they said he was resisting, because I remember Rodney King, when they got off there, it's like, actually, I could kind of see that he was trying to fight back. I was like, what?
Well, the thing with George Floyd that's so interesting is that we have so many videos of people, Philando Castile, people doing nothing and being murdered. But with George Floyd, I feel like for the very first time for other people, not for us, because we've been watching it, you watch the guy handcuffed on his belly, unable to do anything, with a knee in his neck for almost 9 minutes. Like, it's almost like we had to be killed in the most defenseless, horrible way for people to be like, they might be on to something. There's something not right here, Right. So George Floyd's situation was just an illustration of, I think, stories you've heard, that I've heard forever. I mean, even with Breonna Taylor and the tragedy of her story, I almost felt like her story didn't get the attention it deserved because it had no video. I was like, video seems to be the thing that really pushes people to the moment. And I'm like, man, like I feel like that's, even with Sandra Bland, you have that video and people can see a thing and they're like, something here is not right. No matter what they try to tell you. I mean, as they say, and what was it, the usual suspects, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he did not exist. And that's the trick they pulled and tried to pull over and over and over
again. Yeah. And I believe the what was it, like Cooper? I don't remember her first name, in New York in Central Park.
Yes. Amy Cooper.
Amy Cooper. I believe that was so telling of so many people in white America, in a sense, in that because a black man asked her to leash her dog.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't go to just anger. She goes to, who are you to ask me? Like, she immediately goes to like, you are less than human.
Right.
And because you are less than human, I'm going to weaponize my whiteness and I'm going to weaponize the police against you.
Oh, yes. And just to watch that video and to watch this man who's not anywhere near her and to watch her voice escalate into that panic and that despair. And I was like, how many times has this happened with no video? And I think they had a prosecutor who said, or a defendant, a public defender who has said, I've had clients lose on the recording. They'll play the recording and hear the desperation in the person's voice and say, something's clearly happened. Listen to her voice.
Yes.
I mean, it was like a magic trick. Like, she was like, 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna show you how to make a black man disappear. Like, she was like, it was amazing, she was like, and he's coming after me, and not after me, the part that really got me, like, and me and my dog. I'm like, it's the dog that's gonna get him out there. You cannot, oh man, not just attacking her and her dog. Oh my God. I was like, man, run, get out of there. Get out of there.
He did. He was like, thank you. That's all I need. When he heard that, he's like, and I'm out.
He did.
Yep. Wow. That's crazy. Jessica says she remembers the story when you had Josh in the car with you. I haven't heard this story.
It's in my book. Yeah, it's actually, so I have a collection of poems, short stories called Conduit. And there's a story where, I get pulled over with my nephew in the car. And it was over, they said that my license was expired, right? But I had it renewed and I had all this paperwork that proved it. It just I didn't have it on me. And so Josh was in the car and the cop pulls me over and he leaves Josh, and Josh is 6 or 7 at the time. He leaves Josh in the car, handcuffs me and puts me in the back of his car. So now there's a 6 or 7-year-old kid alone in the car. So I get his mom on the phone before I get out of the car. So she's on the phone with him. And he was terrified by the whole thing. It was terrifying. And so my sister came and she had like this folder of paperwork that proves that everything I said was true. And to the cop's credit, he could have just, a lot of cops be like, I don't care. I just take you to jail. So he waited. She brought him the paperwork. He looked at it and he just shook his head like, yeah, man, you're right. And he uncuffed me. And then he was like, I'm sorry about, having to do this in front of your nephew. And he was like, I think he said something to the effect of like, this is probably like, he probably hates the police now. And I was like, probably. This might have done it for him. This could be the moment that you lost one over whatever the fuck this is. I mean, whatever the word this is. So,
yeah. PG-13.
Yeah, my fault. The police, they bring it out. They bring it out of me.
I mean, you bring up a good point though, because, your art, and you say Couldn't Do It, which is your book. So before we even ask the next question, talk about just your book and the success of it, and then how we can continue to get our voice out there, because again, that's another revenue stream and platform that you had that you haven't even mentioned yet.
Yeah. Conduit collection of poems and short stories. It was #1 on Amazon in its category for 3 or 4 or 5 months, something like this. And really, it's a testament to the world as it is formed today. You can make direct contact with people who are appreciators of your art or whatever you create. And so you can market directly to people who want to support your product, your project. And then, if you hopefully do something that's excellent, once they see it or hear it or buy it, then they share it with other people. And then it begins to like just kind of take on a life of its own. Like the momentum begins to like build. So that's what happened with the book. I was very blessed. I put the book out. People, in Atlanta and a little bit around the country supported it in great numbers. And that's what elevated it to #1 on Amazon. And then those same people were nice enough to tell other people about it. And then those people bought it and those people told people. And you look up and you sold quite a few copies. And that's a blessing because, as you say, it's a wonderful revenue stream when you're trying to sustain yourself on your art. The more products you can put into the world, you know, your product is working while you're sleeping. You know, you'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I sold 10 books. Look at this in my dreams. So products are magical in that way. So yeah, Conduit is still out there on Amazon, still getting sales, still blessed to get a royalty check every month. So
yeah,
I can't complain. I cannot complain.
It's always nice for some unexpected money to show up.
Yeah, man. Listen, yeah. Well, so I'm about to get a novel out now. I got a novel coming called Midas. That's coming. It's done. I'm just going through some edits. My editor, Dr. Leah Bascom, she went through and did the editing for me. So I'm just approving edits and doing final edits on that. Writing a TV show with Sabrina Holmes, the incredible and fantastic Sabrina Holmes out of Baltimore. We got 4 episodes done. We're about to do, I think, the last 3 or 4. We've got some interest from a production company that I guess maybe I should name right now, but a pretty nice, well-known production company has interest in buying this TV show. So I don't know. It's just about writing and I don't know, just staying after it. You know, I think for me at least, that's just it. I just stay after it. I don't know how to better explain it. Even in the pandemic, I've written a bunch of short stories based on the pandemic, and the city of Atlanta bought one.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Who knew?
And that's
amazing, man. That's amazing.
Yeah,
all right, last question before we have to get out of here. It's something I'm trying to practice right now. It's just in this time for me, I'm just trying to find places to be grateful.
Yes.
You know? And so just in this season of, not in this season of life, but throughout your career, you know, and even now, what's something that you've just been super grateful for?
Man, I'm always super grateful for my extra supportive, like, family, my sister Tiff, my nephew Josh, my mom. These are people who, on my darkest day, will remind me that I got it, that, you know, just stay after it. You got it. It's going to be all right. You know, come in here, you know, eat some fried chicken and some collard greens and calm down. It's going to be okay. I am always grateful because when I first went to my mom and told her I was going to do poetry for a living, she was just like almost like, absolutely, like, go ahead, like, absolutely, go do it. It's going to work because, you know, whatever you do is going to work. And she just believed in it in a way that it astonished me because, you know, I have a degree in economics from James Madison University. And she could have been like, no, do something with that degree.
Right.
But no, she was with it from day one. Day one, she was like, do it. I believe in you. Do it.
That's dope.
We believe in you too, Jon Goode. And for the people that know you, they're already following you. But for the people that are really encouraged by this conversation, how can they find you, brother?
You can find me at Kroger exchanging coins for cash at the Coinstar. You can find me on Instagram at Jon, that's JON_Goode, that's GOODE. It's Jon Goode on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, although I do not tweet very much. So basically find me on Instagram or Facebook. Let's connect. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about, you know, revolution, elevation, love, all of it. Let's talk.
Yeah, man. We got to get you technology because, you know, you can connect Instagram to Twitter. So you don't have to tweet, but when you IG, it goes to Twitter.
Well, that's what I do, but I never go to Twitter. So my Facebook and my Instagram just push to Twitter, but I personally never go to Twitter. So even if you see something on Twitter and respond, I didn't see your response. I never go to Twitter.
That's cool, man. Hey, man, we really appreciate having you, man. Hey, we got to do this again, Jon Goode.
Hey, let's do it. Listen, don't threaten me with a good time, C-Dog. Let's do it.
I love it. Hey, man, I just can't wait for us to grow older and I can keep hearing those type of statements.
Everybody get a little gray.
Hey,
it's happening.
Hey. I remember when none of us had none of this.
No, right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank y'all so much for having me, man. It's been my distinct honor and pleasure to hang out with you guys, man. You are the most righteous.
The most
Brother,
righteous.
You know, we can't say enough. Again, Jon Goode, follow him on all his platforms. Holla, Spotlight. Next week, we got Rodney Perry coming to the stage.
Nice.
So we're gaining momentum, brother. And again, we appreciate you taking your time out. And again, if you don't know him, you should know him because he is a good guy. See what I did there? All right. We'll see you later, Holla Spotlight.
We gone. Peace. Hey.
It's happening. Hey.
I remember when none of us had none of this.
No, right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank y'all so much for having me, man. It's been my distinct honor and pleasure to hang out with you guys, man. You are the most righteous.
The most
brother,
righteous.
You know, we can't say enough. Again, Jon Goode, if you don't know him, you should know him because he is a good guy. See what I did there? All right. We'll see you later, Holla Spotlight.